Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, under the guise of savings, this Prime Minister killed the Kelowna Accord. That agreement had widespread support that dealt with Aboriginal issues, Mr. Speaker. Now they blame the community. Attawapiskat is being blamed, Mr. Speaker, for this government's killing of the Kelowna Accord. Will this government now acknowledge that Canada is facing a First Nations Aboriginal housing crisis, and what are they prepared to do about it?
Honourable Parliamentary Secretary to the Minister of Indian
I can
Affairs.
tell you, Mr. Speaker, a lot more than the Kelowna Accord could have ever hoped to have achieved. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. And I know because I was living in those First Nations communities throughout the 90s, and they don't have a record on this matter, Mr. Speaker. Our government works with First Nations to deliver real results from their priorities. We have invested heavily in First Nations schools, water and wastewater infrastructure, health, housing, and we've done this all in partnership with the Assembly First Nations and other First Nations communities and their leadership. We have a plan, and we will continue to invest in practical solutions with real results, Mr. Speaker.
Mr. Speaker, under the guise of this government taking action, words is all we see, Mr. Speaker. You've had 6 years. You killed the Kelowna Accord, and, Mr. Speaker, there are children that do not even have running water in the province of Manitoba. There's a need for thousands and thousands of additional housings. This government has failed our Aboriginal people. They have failed the First Nations in this country. When are they going to start dealing with the issues that are facing the Aboriginal people of Canada? When can we see a plan to replace the Kelowna Accord?
Parliamentary Secretary to the Minister of Aboriginal Affairs.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Whether we're talking about the joint action plan that we embraced and embarked with the National Chief Assembly First Nations, an federal economic development framework, Mr. Speaker, for First Nations, the water and wastewater infrastructure program, which is focusing on capacity, Mr. Speaker, in reporting, monitoring, and maintenance of critical infrastructure. For the first time, prioritizing and objectivizing the critical infrastructure needs in these regards, Mr. Speaker, and legislation, as the Auditor General pointed out, was necessary to support these kinds of initiatives. Mr. Speaker, we're getting the job done with